I'm going to begin the recording for folks that were unable to join us today. Everyone, welcome to our webinar with our guest presenter, Calvin Pulda from Buckeye Elementary School District. We are super excited to have you here talking about some of your work with AkitaBox. Just to give a quick overview for folks that are joining us, Calvin has been working with us for a number of years, and he has a number of questions and topics that we're going to talk through today about some of his best practices of how he has evolved the usage of AkitaBox at his organization to become most successful, and hopefully share some tips and tricks and maybe some inspiration for the rest of our folks out there. We're going to do some quick introductions, and then we'll dive into a little bit of the Q&A. If you have any particular questions as an attendee, please put that into the Q&A. It's a button at the bottom of your Zoom. If it is applicable to the current topic, we might stop and address it while the topic is still fresh in everyone's minds. If it is something completely random, please still put it into the Q&A and we will get to it at the end of our session. If you need anything else, please just reach out to myself or Jasmine and we'll help you. And with that, we'll begin some introductions. Jasmine, would you like to go first?
Absolutely. So my name is Jasmine. I am a customer success manager here at AkitaBox. Been here a few months and was just totally blown away by what I was seeing at Calvin's AkitaBox account. I really love what he's doing. Some fantastic work, and I think he has some great ideas he could share with us. Calvin?
Thank you. My name is Calvin Pulda. I'm the Special Systems Coordinator at Buckeye Elementary. My main jobs are dealing with access control cameras, security alarms, fire alarms, also any IT-based stuff for the maintenance department. AkitaBox falls under that. When I started, we were looking at it. My boss was looking at it, and I came on board, looked at it, and told him I thought it was a great idea, and we went forward with it. And we've been with you guys for almost 5 years, I believe, 4.5 years, something like that. We were kind of discussing the work orders. I think we're over 100,000 work orders that we've done through AkitaBox.
Excellent, excellent. All right, well, let's dive into some of our topics as we go. Jasmine, what's the first question?
All right. So the first question has to do with service request portal adoption, because it's one of the biggest things that all of our customers have in common. And it's something we get questions about all the time. One of the questions we get all the time is, how do you encourage people to actually utilize the service request portal? And like, what steps have you taken to make that so easy in your organization?
Okay, so that's actually, in the very beginning, was a big fight for us. Our old system was email based. You had a email, it had a editable Word document, and that's how you put in service requests. Since then, since we've went with AkitaBox, we've actually spread our service request portal. Each of our campuses has a different bookmark tab that's set up by IT. In that tab, we actually have AkitaBox for their portal for their school. And then if I can, I'll share our actual school's website, our district website. So any of our staff can actually go right into a staff link on our website. And right here at the very, unfortunately, it was very bottom because it's the last thing we've added, is the AkitaBox service portal. Now, at this point, because it is the main portal, they have to choose which school they're at. Once they do that, they can go ahead and submit their requests.
Awesome, awesome. I think you also said something one time about using QR codes to make it easy.
So we started playing around with some QR codes, and I found that I could add the website to a QR code and print it out. And we haven't put any out yet, but we're thinking about putting them out at the schools where the teachers, like in the teachers lounge, stuff like that, so they can just scan a QR code with their phone and get right on that link.
That would honestly be so helpful, especially like over in like a massive room, a massive building where they may not have like the connectivity all the time. Or like, do we like, get on the internet real quick and I go to the website, go to all the steps. So one quick QR code for that particular building. Awesome. Let me also talk to you about service request portal security. A lot of customers have questions about like, how do you ensure that all your service requests actually come from verified individuals, people who should be submitting them?
So one thing we did when we first started using AkitaBox, my boss, his admin assistant, who she does the day-to-day approving, denying, went through and said, look, we need to make sure that only our teachers are putting these in, only our staff members. So when you actually put it in, you have to use your email address. So we only use a email address that is at our domain. If they put it in with a Gmail or something like that, it gets denied. And even if we actually know the person, we still deny it because we want it to come from their internal domain. Because when we leave responses or put responses or notes in the work order, we want them to see that email. Well, if they put it through their Gmail, they may not check it while at work.
That's really insightful. And how did you guys communicate this? Because of course, there was traction, there's probably friction at the very beginning when you said we're only going to accept it from certain email addresses. Was there any problems?
Yeah, I mean, there was some friction at the beginning of it. It was like, why'd you deny my work order? And, we had set down meetings with the admin assistants. The admin assistants are pretty much in charge of the day-to-day operations of the schools, the principals, the vice principals, all that admin staff. They deal with a lot of the other stuff, where the admin assistant is who any facility members go to. That's the person they gravitate to. So we sat down and said, look, this is what we want them to start using so it's easier to do work orders, but they need to use their school email address. Anybody that doesn't use it, it will be rejected. And there was still, even to this day, we still have new people, they throw in a random email address and it gets denied. And then they don't check that email because, they didn't. That's why we tell them, hey, use your school email, because you see it, you check it every day. They put a random email address, they don't check it, they don't realize that it was denied.
It just kind of like proves the whole point.
Yes.
Awesome. My next question actually kind of dovetails off of that one. So now you have a way to get secure requests into your service request portal. How do you guys actually incentivize your team to utilize the service request portal? I'm sorry, not to utilize. Like, how do you incentivize your staff and technicians to submit service requests and work orders? Because a lot of our companies, they have staff who are working solely on work orders, and then actually submit service requests first to actually have it logged as a service request, and then to translate it into a work order.
Okay. So in order to get any kind of work done at any of our facilities, there has to be a request put in. Because our facility managers, they know most of the stuff they're allowed to and not allowed to. But one of our big things at our school district is we don't move like whiteboards. Teachers always want a whiteboard moved from this wall to that one. We don't do it. So we will add whiteboards, but we don't move them because of the repair after the move. So the facility managers get a request, or a teacher's staff member stopping them in the hall and say, hey, I need you to move my whiteboard. I can't do that. You need to put in a request. So typically, unless it's a emergency thing, they won't do any of the work unless they have a request. So, emergency like the, food spilled, something like that, bodily fluid, those we kind of just jump on because it needs to be taken care of because it's a biohazard. But, like, hey, will you take my trash out? Put in a work order. My door squeaks. Okay, will you put in a work order? And we try to explain to the staff that, that work order tracks their time and gives us the data to say we need to have another staff member over here helping because we have so many work orders coming in. So, or one guy will do the job.
I think that's a really good point to a lot of people's concerns because it helps you track where the most things are going on, helps you figure out trends, and then of course forecast where you actually need workers in probably different times of the year if there's any cyclical things going on. Do you guys have any ways to reward your workers if they actually do follow the process really, really well, or at least better than other people? Any ways to incentivize them?
Well, I know my boss looks at work orders completed, work orders not completed, work orders identified by the facility managers, and he uses that when he's putting in for employee of the quarter for the district, or he uses that information to help try to boost the guys. We try to have monthly meetings with all the facility managers. Time really gets away from us lately. But he will give him an attaboy right there in the meeting, say, hey, look, I noticed you have 98% of your work orders are completed on time, done. We don't see a lot of repeats for that one. Good job.
Calvin, what kind of reporting were you doing before AkitaBox? Were you doing that kind of level of reporting? Did you really need the type of reporting that's in the software?
It's one of those things, until you have it, you don't know you really needed it or wanted it. It was, like I said, it was an editable Word document.
Mm-hmm.
It was emailed in, then it was emailed to the facility manager. They would print it out, fill it out, and then at the end of the week, through district mail, they would send all the work orders back over to the director of maintenance. The amount of filing cabinets is amazing, just to keep those work orders. Now it's a lot easier, especially when we get a complaint. Hey, I've put in 4 work orders for this issue. None of them have satisfied it. We don't have to dig through, try to find those 4. We can pull up that classroom and say, okay, well, you've put in 2 work orders this year. The first one was for your sink leaking. The second one was for you wanted to move whiteboard. There's that aspect of it. There's also the aspect of, okay, your air conditioner wasn't cooling. We replaced a fan motor, checked it out. Everything was okay. 2 months later, the compressor went up. Yes, you put in 2 work orders. It's been 2 different issues. We're trying to get your air conditioner replaced.
Gotcha. If you had to pick one of those different areas as a kind of a game changer metric for you guys to be able to see, is it being able to track through some of the history more easily, or is it seeing some of the ratios around productivity of your staff? Has it helped you become more efficient or allow you to hire more people?
Well, it allows us to put the help where we need it. We do have a facility manager at each facility, and then we have a couple floaters, and it's really nice because as you see, the work orders are piling up on one person. They have a bunch of overdue work orders. Their PMs are not being completed. They need help.
Gotcha. Okay, we've got a number of questions around work orders here, so I'm going to segue into some of them for you. The first one that came in looks like Calvin from Sandy. Do you have established service level agreements, and how are they managed in AkitaBox?
Service level agreements. So we don't really have agreements because we have service requests. Anybody can put in a request. They're managed by what they're wanting done. Whether it's custodial, what's air conditioning, whether it's a facility use request, See if I can pull it up here because we have so many. See if I can list them all. Okay. Let me share my screen here. All right. So we have facility use. It auto directs to security, which I did it as security because it's a blank slate. Security covers our access control, our alarms, our cameras, all that. Bell issues, which is also part of our intercoms, our PAs. If they need to pull camera footage, we have security cameras on site. Administration of that site can actually look at the cameras, but they cannot pull footage. And that's for legal reasons. So they have to put in a request to pull that. Custodial maintenance. This one's kind of during the day, it's a double whammy because our maintenance guy also does light custodial work during the day. Like the custodial contractor didn't take out the trash for the classroom, so they put in a request to get their trash taken out because it's overflowing. If you have an electrical issue, we have that. If your heating's not working, if your key doesn't work. This one right here is a big one if they lost their badge, because at our facilities, our badges are our keys to the outside of the building. So you get inside your building with your badge. If you lose it, it has your name, your school, everything on it. So we need to shut that off immediately so you can go get a new one. We have plumbing issues. We have room setup. So if they're asking for an extra desk, if they're asking for a conference room to be set up, those are some of the different requests you can make.
Sure. Just segueing to a couple of other questions related to this. How do you assign work types and extract date? So you have the associated issue with the associated trade.
Mm-hmm.
Do you default those trades? Do you manually groom through and review all incoming work and assign that out?
So we do a little bit of both. We have everything's automatically set up to who they are. So like our admin only and facility use, it goes to security. Well, under security, it's assigned to me. So it'll automatically route to me. Well, if I'm not here, I've got to have it reassigned to my tech so that my tech can take care of that. Custodial defaults to our facility manager. The electrical defaults to a lot of these default directly to who needs to work on it. Our HVAC throughout our entire district goes to our HVAC tech. It doesn't go to the facility manager first because we want to get that tech out there and get it taken care of immediately. So we do use a lot of auto routing, but we do have to approve every work order or every request.
Gotcha.
Because there's a lot of requests that come in for IT. We don't deal with IT issues. They are still using another system. We don't worry about that one, unfortunately.
That's fair. Semi-related, John Finley asks, you mentioned taking out trash as an example of a request. Do you manage custodial in AkitaBox as well? And if so, do you track all custodial tasks, such as routine cleaning?
So yes and no. We have a contract company, and we've been having a lot of issues with things being performed and finished. So we have actually started, we're going to start it this new year. Let me find it here. So we started checklists for our ABM. ABM is our contractor. And we have a checklist specifically for it. and they need to go through them. Did you empty your trash? Did you empty the pencil sharpener? It seems very elementary the way that we've spelled this out, but this is based on their contract. These are the things they're required to do in every classroom and every day. So we created a inspection program specifically for it, so that at the end of the day, when we get a work order or a complaint that my trash wasn't taken out, literally go to the report on this inspection program and see if any failed. If it says they emptied it, then we have to figure out the next step.
Gotcha. One other question related to tracking some of your work orders and failure types. Do you have a system inside AkitaBox for tracking failure types within issue types, i.e. tracking number of HVAC issues that are hot calls versus HVAC issues that are cold calls, or thermostat scheduling?
So our thermostat scheduling is done through facility requests. We have our standards Monday through Friday, during school hours. We have our standard occupied temperatures. We have our unoccupied temperatures, which are standard throughout the district as well. If you're requesting to use the facility during off hours, you have to request which doors you want open or access to, and what rooms you're going to use so that we can turn the air conditioning on. And then as far as the other part of that, all our HVAC requests are, they just put in that, no cooler, my room's hot, and we kind of pre-screen the HVAC, because when you're transitioning from winter to summer, we have a big issue here in Arizona that first thing in the morning, it's really cold. In the afternoon, it's really hot. And it's our weather's kind of bipolar. So in the morning, the room can be very hot because it's so cold that the heater's on. And then in the afternoon, they're like, well, it's still hot, but you actually look at it and they're at temperature. Their room is at temperature. We still send the tech out, hey, can you verify the temperature in this room? Because thermostats aren't always dead on. So, and at that point, if it is off a little bit, then we adjust the thermostat based on the room temperature.
Gotcha. Going back to the inspection program for your custodial contractor, how do they respond to your inspection checklist? Do you provide them an iPad? Do they have access to your AkitaBox program on their own devices?
So this is still under contract with them that they are going to use it on the new year. And I believe they are going to use their own devices per their company. So we will need an email from them, and we set them up in AkitaBox so that they can be assigned a inspection program or a set of routes.
Gotcha. All right. Another question on work orders. Are your individual work order costs recorded and flow from work orders to assets?
When we have to buy a part for a work order, it is recorded in the work order. As far as exporting it, we haven't started exporting it yet. The main time that we actually pay attention to what the cost is that we've done with one is if we notice a trend with a certain air conditioner or a certain asset is constantly breaking. We pull up the work order history on it and see how much money and time has been allotted to that device. And then we present that, hey, we probably should replace this device because it's cost us almost as much as a new one already.
Gotcha. And then we do have one other one that I did accidentally skip over here. Routine preventative maintenance work orders, can they be scheduled to automatically generate? Generally speaking, the answer is yes. Calvin, is there anything that you do with preventative maintenance work orders versus the ad hoc service request work orders?
So we have maintenance schedules. These are all our PMs. Our PMs are actually generated by our state facility board. So we have a Arizona School Facilities Board that give us a minimum requirement in order to get funding for equipment. We take off of their board, off their work orders. This is kind of how we used to do it. We are transitioning from the maintenance schedule part of it so that you have just a work order telling you what to do. And we're actually going to transfer it all over to a inspection program. The inspection programs are going to, well, here's one that we use for our generator. We have a generator at one of our schools. It's a weekly test. So he goes through, I can actually pull up the template for it. First thing he does before he ever starts it, he checks the oil. Gives us a pass or fail. Checks the battery. Is the battery charging? How much fuel's in it? We have it set to fail at 70% because we were recommended not to let our tank get below 70%. So that failure, when we go into the reporting, I check the reporting every week, every 2 weeks, just to make sure that this whole round passed everything. If it fails, then we get the fuel truck over there and get it filled up. Is the air filter clean? How many engine hours are on there? We actually, when I pull up a completed one, it tells us how many hours are on there. And we have him run it for at least 15 minutes every week. And then we actually have a spot where he can write in comments. And then we have him sign it. That way he signed his work. He said, hey, I truly did do this work. One thing, I don't know if I can say it, that you guys are trying to help us develop on our inspection programs for our contractors is, instead of a signature, a QR code, so that we can put a QR code in every room and they have to go into that room and scan it. And our thoughts are, if they're scanning the code, they're cleaning the room. Because why would you walk all the way across the room to scan a code if you're not going to do your job? So.
Excellent. And then slightly related also to the custodial inspections, if they are assigned a log in the AkitaBox program, is there a way to keep them from accessing all of your work orders?
That's going to be under permission groups. We actually have a vendor permission group set up. So right here, they can only view work orders assigned to them. Yep. So they can only view, made it so they can't add, take away, or see anything that is not theirs.
Excellent. All right, let me just double check here. Folks, if you are submitting questions, please try to use the Q&A function instead of the chat. That allows a little bit better management to make sure that we don't miss something. But let's see here. Question from Brent. How many labor hours did it take to prepare all 2,500 PM schedules? Were they loaded at the front end when starting AkitaBox, or did you manually input them into the software?
So when we came on board with AkitaBox, we gave AkitaBox our entire PM schedule from the state. And I think we spent maybe 2 hours going over what our expectations were. And that's how we got the maintenance schedules. So each one of these maintenance schedules was taken off of a PM. There's an EA number. These are all on the actual state's numbers. These are their numbers, their requirements. And you guys inputted them on the front end for us.
Actually, yes. Last question related to work orders at the moment. For work orders under the priority, low, medium, and high, an emergency, do you have them drive the due date, i.e. low equals 10 days, medium equals something else?
So at this point in time, we don't change a priority. Everybody who requests typically puts it in under medium priority. That's the default. We have all our work orders get a due date of, we did a full 7 days, so 5 business days. That is our default. We can change it when it comes up so that if we see something that's, gotta, actually, let me see if I've got one here. So these are got to be finished by June 10th and June 24th. So if you notice, we've got a longer due date on this one, I believe. But typically, the work orders that come in for a facility request, the due date on it is changed to the day of. I don't have any. Yeah, we usually set it to the first day of that. When that is required, that's when we change the due date to that. So it comes up a little bit different. But everything we do is typically under a medium priority.
Gotcha. Okay. One last question on the janitorial checklist. Did you create that yourself, Calvin?
I created the checklist based on the contract that we have with our cleaning contractor. So what their contract said they're required to do, I created a checklist for it.
Perfect. All right. There is one other question around PM schedules, but let's hold that for the end so we can get through some of the other questions that we have on the list and we'll come back to it.
Okay.
Honestly, I feel like you answered everything so well. I'm like, oh, this is so fascinating. You've really generated a really constructive conversation. So thank you for being so open to answering questions and helping us, the rest of the customers. I do want to skip over to AkitaBox enhancements because I feel like this is an area where you absolutely shine and you have a lot of insight on how to elaborate on AkitaBox and expand it to really custom fit your school's needs. So can you talk a little bit about like what you've done beyond what we take over, what we do typically in our standard implementations, like what you added to your system, what new things you've started tracking since we gave the system to you?
Okay. So I think a big one for us, when we pull up the building here at our district complex, our school buses. There's no room to track a school bus. There's no place to put a school bus anywhere in it. So we had a lot of foot traffic through our shop, which anybody who knows that's dealing with school buses and heavy equipment, having random people walk through there and go to the technician who's been over a bus working on it, kind of tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, I need air in my tire. It's kind of dangerous, kind of not really what they need. So we went through and they asked me, is there a way that we can actually put our buses into AkitaBox? So I actually took our buses and created rooms. And now it's not going to fill them up for me. created a room, and then I created an asset inside that room for all the buses. So each one of our buses is stored on its own floor, and created a floor called the bus yard. That way, all the buses are there. And as you notice, I got room is bus 1, the asset name is bus 1. And of course, I choose the bus that has, we had a check engine light on it. So they needed DEF. So we can actually track all the work orders that were done on that bus. So not only does this give us a quick reference for the mechanics to actually look at it, but it gives them a date for their hard copy paper where they do the oil changes, they do the service, they actually record it so that they have a hard copy of each vehicle that we have in our building. This gives them a really nice reference so that they can go, when did we do that? When was the last time we put DEF in that bus? DEF is a big thing with us right now because we're having a lot of issues with them. So they can actually pull it up and look at it and chase down dates. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it kind of made it really easy to track buses that way. And we created a kiosk with the IT department that takes them to the service portal for our district office. That way they can input the work order, do the request right there.
Calvin,
Sounds good.
specifically on those buses, there's a question on, do you track the DOT certificates and any state patrol inspections on the buses through AkitaBox?
Not through AkitaBox. Those are all hard copy. DOT actually comes out and does yearly inspections in our shop for us. All the certificates are held here on site, and I don't think we could actually do them in AkitaBox because I don't believe the officer who inspects them would want to look at it on the computer. I think you'd rather have the hard copy of it. They're a little old school when they're doing our DOT inspections.
If I can actually ping off of that one, I remember you also said something about how you add documentation to your assets.
So yeah, like our I'd have to find one. Oops, if I go to the right tab. So typically any of our air conditioners, go into more details of it. We have pictures of them. We have serial tags. We have QR codes. And then we actually go into details. We have model, serial. The filter sizes are being inputted as we work on them. We have a spreadsheet that has all our filter sizes. My boss has actually worked very hard on his spreadsheets and his file system. We order filters every year for the entire year. So he has a list of what filters need to be ordered for what units. And we're slowly getting them in. Another thing that we do are tracking on. Let me go back to my plan view again. So we use small format interchangeable cores. And unfortunately, if you have a core jammed up with glue, something like that, typically you have to drill it. Okay, let me switch schools here. That one wasn't done. So go in. Where's our door? Show me a door. There we go. So under our doors, we've actually taken the model number because we don't have a tab that says core number. So we've actually taken the model number, and that is where we put all our core numbers. So if I know that, hey, a student filled this lock full of glue because that's the teacher's work order, I can build that core before I even go out to site because I know I'm going to have to drill that core out in order to get the door unlocked. So I'm prepared when I go to the door.
Sure. Calvin, do you store any other supplemental documentation for your team, like OEM, the administrator manuals, or warranties, or any other like PDF items?
Not at this time, no.
Gotcha. So you're mostly in the discrete data.
Yeah, I mean, eventually we will probably, like stuff that has warranty dates, we do put the expiration date of the warranty. If we swap out a HVAC unit and it's brand new, we put the warranty date in there. That way they know when it's out of warranty. And we do that because at that point in time, we're actually in that unit changing the model and serial. It's still named the same unit because it's, see how they see CU3. It's a condensing unit in the janitor's closet, and this is for a water fountain. So if we were to change out that condensing unit, we'd still call it CU3, but we would want to change the manufacturer and the model number because, as you can see on this one, we couldn't get to it because of where it's installed. So when we're changing it out, that's the time to get that, and then we would change our warranty.
Perfect. Awesome.
Another thing that we track, that's okay, is, you know, our card reader system. Anybody who deals with access control knows that you have a card reader on a door, but typically the brain's not there. The brain's in another location. So we've actually gone through and said where the actual device is located. That way, anybody coming in behind me that doesn't know exactly where that unit is, it's listed right there. Saves them 30 minutes of looking through the ceiling.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, this is really helpful. I also want to point out, like, as you're going through your floors, I noticed that you have your own floors added. I think that's another really cool feature that some of our users don't realize they have, but you just take screenshots of Google and like make a new floor out of that.
Yeah, we made grounds because we added all our landscapers to this. So we actually created a checklist for our landscapers to mow the baseball and softball field, mow the inside fields, you know, and what days it goes through. So it's every weekly on Monday, they go to this school. That way we don't have to sit there and generate a work order for that landscaper every week. It automatically generates, it automatically kicks it out. They go through at the end of the day, close it out, and you know, they did their job.
So that actually brings me to my next question. You have so many people working on your campus. And also, I don't think we mentioned it, but your campus is a hybrid campus where like the city sometimes uses it during the weekend too. So you have a ton of different user groups that are constantly on this campus doing stuff. What kind of advice would you have to just customers in general on how to best utilize permission groups?
You want to set up your permission groups so that you give people enough access that they can do their job, but you don't want to take the easy way out and turn around and make everybody a administrator just because it's easier and they can do what they want to do. I think we started with administrator and manager, I believe is how we started. Oh no, we had administrator, manager, and technician. So all our technicians are facility managers or coordinators. So they can add attachments, they can add service requests, they can add work orders directly from it, because part of their job is they're walking around their facility, they see something broken, rather than just sending in a request to have it approved, they can actually give a work order so that they can track their time on it. We have district maintenance, which is a little bit lower than a facility manager as far as what they can actually do. They're helpers typically, so they can't just go in and say, hey, I'm going to make a work order to do this, because they're not the ones who are on the facilities every day. They're sent out to help the facility manager with moving heavy stuff or something like that. So we want to give them enough that they can do their work orders. They can add attachments. You know, if they have a picture that it was done, they can add that. You know, they can add an attachment to a room. So if they take a picture of, you know, something that was done in the room that's added to the tracking of that room, they can add that. And then we have, sorry, wrong button. Vendors. Vendors can literally just look at stuff. So we work with a company that monitors our electric, water, and gas usage. I created a vendor for them so that they can get a better idea of our campuses, how many air handlers we have, how many rooftop units we have, the different stuff that we have that's drawing power, so that when they come out and go, hey, you know, I noticed you guys had a spike on use, what's up, you know, or why can't we schedule out so that you have 5 units starting every 20 minutes to kind of lower that peak? Well, I have 85 air conditioning units on my campus. I can't really extend it that far. So we kind of made that so they have a better knowledge of what they're doing. We have administrators, you know, everybody's got that. They can do pretty much everything there is.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, if you look at our administrator group, most of these people are AkitaBox. I have my tech, because he adds a lot of stuff for us. Our admin assistant, myself, and my manager. So other than that, it's all AkitaBox in there. You know, we kind of want to limit that, because with the wrong click, you can pretty much erase everything you've done.
And that'd be terrible for such a robust and comprehensive system as you've built here.
Yeah.
All those hours.
I mean, we even track our Knox boxes, how many Knox boxes we have at a campus and where they're at. And we do that because we're starting to change out our keys in our Knox boxes, and we wanted to number the key for the box the same as the box, so that if for some reason a year down the road we start looking through and, hey, why is the Knox box 1 have the key 10 in it? Who's been out here playing?
Awesome. I know we're getting down to the very end and we have a lot of great questions. So I'll probably honestly be like meeting with you and just kind of funneling answers back out as we can. But one question that keeps on coming up, it seems like, is questions about reports.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would like to know what I was seeing in your user list here. A lot of your users, not just the administrators, are able to see the reports. So it sounds like you guys are using reports pretty often, and for like kind of guiding your whole team, and you want everyone to be able to know what the data is really saying.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you guys use them? Like, just tell us about that.
So typically we use our reports. One of our big reports that we use is our reactive versus preventative. we can actually see, like here, we'll pick on Lance. He's got 92 of his preventative maintenance done, which is all his monthly preventative. He also has 86 reactive. So any work orders that are being put in by users, facility users, any of our customers. The nice thing about this is, you don't have to reach out and say, hey, how are you doing on your preventative maintenance? I can literally look at it and say, okay, he's got quite a bit of them done. Whereas I can look over here at another guy at another facility and say, hey, maybe we should send him a little bit of help because he should have a lot more than 33 completed by now. So that's one of the big ones that we use. Let's see here, what else? This is just fun to look at for us, how quickly they do the work orders. If you go through a lot of our stuff, most of our work orders since we've changed to this system are done within the first 1 to 3 days of them getting them. Used to be with the papers, it was pretty much somewhere between a week and 2 weeks, roughly, because they don't have it staring at their face every time they log in. This is usually a big incentive right here. You log in and you look at it and you've got a red dot. Well, I don't know, most of the OCD people don't like red dots on stuff. I know my phone, I log into it, I see a red dot, let me get rid of that dot. It's the same way with the work orders. It reminds you every time you look at it. So it makes them get it done. I mean, there are some that you can't do right away, but we try.
Can you tell me a little bit about like what kind of trends your management team actually looks at? And like what are you guys following besides what we just looked at, the completed rates between your different team members and the ages of your tickets?
That one's kind of, yes. Let me think about that one for a second. Service requests versus self-identified. That's a big one. Are they waiting for somebody to point something out to them? Or are they just actually going around and finding work to do? Let's see.
I think you did mention that when we were talking about the bus drivers, because
Yes.
like they have to fill up a particular number of hours. And so they should have mostly self-identified issues on their own buses.
Correct. So we can look at our trades. Here's our bus mechanic, custodial. This is a big one because there's 2 guys versus 9 guys. Where are we having issues? This one has actually dropped down considerable. Not only is it we used to have a lot of HVAC issues. We've worked with the state and changed out a lot of units to bring that down. We've also started spending a lot more time on maintenance with them. So a lot more preventative maintenance on our ACs, which has in turn brought down our work orders.
Sure. Brent, a question related to some of the work orders that you're doing. When you take photos during an inspection, do you create, if something fails, the inspection you need to have work done, do you do a work order per item that failed? So separate work orders, or do you do one based on just the entire inspection work? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, kind of. So if you have a failure, like let me pull this up here. So we have a couple failed. Yeah, come on, work. So I'll go through and I'll actually look at the completed ones and see what the failure was. if it was something as simple as it was low on fuel, then yeah, they'll create a work order to go fill the fuel. Trying to remember, I just went through all this. Sorry. A lot of it depends on why it failed. Did it fail just because it wasn't done? Or, see, we don't have any linked work orders on those 3 failures. And I just looked at the failures and I can't even remember what the failures were for. Typically, if we have a failure, I would go ask him first off, why did we have a failure? What failed? What happened? This one literally failed. I don't even understand why this one failed, honestly.
So worth a conversation.
Yes. So I would go have a conversation with him to find out why it failed. If it's not readily available here, to show me why it failed. Typically, if there's, like, when we send out the inspection for like the cleaning, if I get a lot of failures, there would be a work order to go out and like inspect the room to find out why or what happened that these weren't done. Did they not vacuum because the vacuum was broken? Well, in our case, if their vacuum is broken, ABM needs to get it repaired because that's on them. So if we had an inspection fail because we had a broken piece of equipment, then yeah, there would be a work order put in to repair that piece of equipment so that it's going again.
Gotcha. A quick time check. So we are at the top of the hour. Our scheduled time is over. Calvin, do you need to hop, or do you have a few minutes to address a couple of remaining questions?
I can stick around for a few more minutes.
Okay, excellent. Folks, if you also need to drop off, no worries. Please look out for the recording. We will send that out in a couple of days after it is ready and sent to us. And if you do have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to your customer success manager, and we're happy to help. Either get you connected with Calvin if there's a specific question for Buckeye, or something about the AkitaBox software that we can answer. All right, so some ones that are specific to Buckeye here, Calvin. What digital equipment is issued to your team? Is everyone on tablets, cell phones, desktops?
Everyone is on iPads. So they can access it from their desktop, but we did give iPads to all our guys so that they can work on it on the field as they're walking around the schools. And our HVAC techs, because they travel and they're on the roofs where there is no Wi-Fi, they got an iPad with wireless.
Gotcha. Awesome. Okay. Do you have a way of managing future capital through the work system to track future projects or expenditures, for example, in fiscal year 24, 25, 26?
Not per se. We do, like I was saying earlier, we do recognize the trend of the unit having issues, and then we go back in and we look at what we've done and how much money's been spent on it. And then we reach out either to, well, we bring that information to our director, and he either chooses to reach out to the state to say, hey, what can we do about this? Can we get some assistance on it? Or he reaches out to purchasing or the CFO and says, we need to replace this unit. It's costing us a lot of money.
Gotcha. All right. Speaking of making choices, how do you determine the difference between when you want to create an inspection or a PM, since they're very similar in some cases?
They are very similar. We actually started with PMs because there were no inspections. We're in the process of converting all our PMs over to inspections. The inspections seem to have a better reporting at a glance. It's a lot easier to look at your inspections and say, hey, I had 3 failures out of 91. Why? What were those failures? What do we need to look at? Whereas the maintenance schedules, you have to go individually by each one and look at what was written on it. What did they do? What needs to be fixed? So the inspection program has a lot better reporting than the maintenance schedule. And you can schedule both of them to do exactly what you want. The one nice thing was the maintenance schedules were loaded in the front end, where the inspection programs are being created by us.
There's a little bit more decision making with those, huh?
Yeah, and it's a little bit lengthy process. And then it also, maintenance schedules, the way we've done them, it covers HVAC in general. It covers all plumbing valves in general. When it comes to inspection programs, do we create one stop for all HVAC at that school, or do we create 82 stops for each unit? How much do you want to, how detailed do you want to get, or how easy do you want to make it for your guys? When it comes to HVAC, unfortunately, we're probably going to do one stop because they're inspecting all the units anyways, because they're doing it when they're changing filters. Do I want to make them sit there and do a checklist, the same checklist 86 times? Not really. Transformers, I have maybe 4 of them throughout the building. So 4 stops. I know for a fact they're locked up in a closet. Let's have them go look at each one.
Makes sense. Thank you. All right, a little bit of a tangent. Do you have QR codes exposed to sun and UV, and
Yes.
Are they resistant on outdoor equipment?
We've had, when we were first onboarded, they put QR codes on all our air handlers outside. They're a little faded after the amount of time that we've had them, and in the Arizona sun, which is
in the desert, which gets a fair amount of sun.
It's pretty gnarly. They are still scannable. So the AkitaBox QR codes have held up pretty well.
Excellent. All right, that is the end of our general Q&A here. Calvin, any last tips for folks hanging out?
The more you play with it, the more you can figure out. I've sat down and I've played and figured out stuff, and my boss is very good about asking me questions. Hey, can we make it do this? And the first thing I do is I sit down and play with it. If I can't figure something out, I reach out to you guys. I say, hey, I'm trying to do this. Is there anything that you guys know how to do? At that point, it's well, we don't know yet, or yeah, there's this. And if it's not me reaching out and asking, there have been times that I've had calls from AkitaBox saying, hey, do you know if how would you handle this? And it's like, oh yeah, I do it this way. So there's been information sharing back to you guys from us. We, as a lot of people have seen, we kind of do a lot of different things with it.
We do. It is very exciting. All right. No more questions have come in the last remaining minutes here. Thank you to everyone who attended, and for those that stayed a little bit longer, but most especially big, huge thank you to you, Calvin, for joining us today and talking about how you use the system and demoing a little bit as we go.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Calvin.
Did fantastic.
Very cool.
Yeah. So we will be sending out the video recording in a couple of days when Zoom gets it back to us. If you have any questions, like I mentioned, please reach out to your customer success manager. They are happy to help you. And then if anyone has an interest in becoming a peer panelist or a facilitator like Calvin has been with us today, please let us know as well, because we are hoping to do a lot more of these sessions over the coming months, because it is incredibly helpful. All right. Happy Thursday. Happy long weekend to everyone. Please have fun. Stay safe.
Thank you.